When Derek Maddox made careless, hurtful comments about black women on a viral podcast, he thought the controversy would blow over like all the others. But then, Amara Fields walked into his office as his new front desk assistant, brilliant, dignified, and everything his thoughtless words had dismissed. What started as a professional relationship would challenge everything Derek thought he knew about himself, beauty, and the courage it takes to truly change. Their story is one of transformation, truth, and the power of seeing people for who they really are. Before we start this story, comment below from where you are watching us. The morning sun poured through the windows of Amara Fields' small Chicago apartment as she stood in front of her closet, trying to decide what to wear. Today was her first day at her new job, and she wanted to make a good impression. At 27, Amara was starting over. After burning out from teaching cultural anthropology at a local college, she needed a break to figure out her next move. This one should work, she said to herself, pulling out a rust-colored wrap dress. It was professional, comfortable, and made her feel confident, something she desperately needed today. As she applied her makeup, her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend, Maya. "Good luck today. Don't forget you're amazing." Amara smiled. Maya had been her rock these past few months. When Amara decided to leave her teaching position and move to Chicago, Maya was the one who helped her find an apartment and encouraged her to take this temporary position as a front desk assistant at a downtown corporate office. "Thanks, girl," Amara texted back. "Just a stepping stone until I figure things out." She grabbed her purse, took one last look in the mirror, and headed out the door. Her natural curls framed her face perfectly, and the dress complemented her dark skin tone. Amara carried herself with a quiet dignity that had always been her signature. Head high, shoulders back, steps measured and sure. Across town, in a luxury penthouse apartment, Derek Maddox stood on his balcony overlooking the Chicago skyline, coffee in hand. At 32, he had everything he'd ever wanted: money, power, success. His tech company, Maddox Innovations, had grown from a startup in his garage to a multi-million-dollar enterprise in just 5 years. His assistant's voice came through the speaker. "Mr. Maddox, your car is waiting downstairs. You have a board meeting at 9:30. "I'll be right down," Derek replied, draining his coffee. He checked his reflection in the mirror. Designer suit perfectly tailored to his athletic build, short dark hair styled just right, white teeth flashing in a practiced smile. Derek knew how to look good for the cameras. As a frequent guest on business podcasts and television shows, he had cultivated an image of being brutally honest, edgy, and unapologetic. It was working for him, until now. As he rode the elevator down to the lobby, his phone rang. It was Jessica, his PR director. "Please tell me you've seen the news," she said without preamble. "I've been in meetings all morning." "What's going on?" Derek asked, stepping into the back of his waiting car. "That podcast you did with Tyler Banks last week? Someone clipped a part of it and it's going viral. And not in a good way." Derek frowned. "Which part?" "The part where you said, and I quote, 'Let's be real, man. Black women? Not always pretty in the face, but their bodies? That's what gets them attention.'" Derek's stomach dropped. He remembered saying it, a throwaway comment meant to get a laugh from Tyler, another tech CEO known for his controversial opinions. "How bad is it?" he asked. "Bad. Twitter is on fire. The clip has over 1 million views. People are calling for boycotts of Maddox Innovations. I've been fielding calls from reporters all morning." Derek closed his eyes. "What do we do? We need to get ahead of this. Issue an apology." "No," Derek cut her off. "No apologies, that's not my brand. Find a way to spin this." "Derek, you can't just—" "Figure it out, Jessica. That's what I pay you for." He hung up before she could argue. Derek Maddox didn't apologize. It wasn't how he built his reputation. He said what he thought, and people respected him for it. Or at least they used to. Amara arrived at the gleaming glass building in downtown Chicago 15 minutes early. She checked in with security and was directed to the 30th floor. As the elevator climbed, she took deep breaths to calm her nerves. The doors opened onto a sleek reception area with Maddox Innovations displayed in large metal letters on the wall. A friendly woman in her 50s greeted her. "You must be Amara. I'm Barbara, the office manager. We're so glad you're here. Let me show you around before I hand you over to HR for orientation." Barbara led Amara through the office, explaining her duties as the temporary front desk assistant. The job was simple: answer phones, greet visitors, handle mail and deliveries, and assist with administrative tasks as needed. This is just for 6 months, Barbara explained. Our regular receptionist is on maternity leave, but who knows, if you like it here, other positions might open up. Amara nodded politely, though she had no intention of staying longer than necessary. This was just a paycheck, while she figured out her next career move. After orientation and paperwork, Barbara showed Amara to the front desk. You'll start training today. Just shadow me for now, and tomorrow you can take over. The morning passed quickly as Amara learned the phone system, visitor protocols, and office procedures. Around noon, the elevator doors opened, and a group of men in expensive suits walked in, deep in conversation. Amara immediately recognized the man in the center, Derek Maddox. She had seen his face countless times in the past week. Her sister had sent her the viral clip of his podcast interview, along with the message, "Can you believe this fool?" Amara had watched it 3 times, each viewing making her angrier than the last. The casual way he dismissed black women, reducing them to bodies without beautiful faces, had stung her deeply. And now here he was, walking toward her desk. Barbara stood up. "Good afternoon, Mr. Maddox. How was your meeting?" "Productive," he replied with a charming smile. Then his eyes landed on Amara. For a moment, Derek froze. Standing before him was a striking black woman with flawless skin, high cheekbones, and intelligent eyes that seemed to look right through him. Her rust-colored dress complemented her dark complexion perfectly, and she carried herself with a quiet dignity that made everyone else in the room fade into the background. "This is Amara Fields," Barbara said. "She's filling in while Julie is on maternity leave." Amara rose from her chair, her posture perfect, her expression composed. "Good afternoon, Mr. Maddox," she said, her voice smooth and controlled. Derek extended his hand automatically. "Welcome to Maddox Innovations, Ms. Fields." When she took his hand, her grip was firm and brief. Her eyes never wavered from his, and Derek felt an uncomfortable sensation in his chest, as if she could see every thought in his head, including that careless comment he'd made on the podcast. "Thank you, sir," she replied, her tone professionally distant. Derek found himself at a loss for words, something that never happened to him. He nodded awkwardly and continued to his office, aware of her eyes following him. Once inside, he loosened his tie and sat heavily in his chair. The woman at his front desk was the living embodiment of everything he'd dismissed so carelessly in that interview, and somehow he knew that she was aware of exactly what he'd said. By the end of her first day, Amara was exhausted. Learning a new job was always tiring, but the unexpected encounter with Derek Maddox had drained her more than she anticipated. She hadn't known she would be working directly for the man whose thoughtless comments had gone viral. As she packed up her things, her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "How was the first day? Boss a jerk, or what?" Amara stared at the message. If Maya only knew. "You won't believe who owns the company," she texted back. "Who?" "Derek Maddox." 3 dots appeared as Maya typed. Then, "The Derek Maddox? The podcast guy? OMG girl, you need to quit." Amara sighed. She couldn't quit. She needed this job to pay her bills while she figured out her next career move. The temp agency had worked hard to place her, and another position might not come along quickly. "Can't quit. Need the money. It's just for 6 months. I can handle it." As she sent the message, Barbara approached her desk. "Amara, Mr. Maddox would like to see you in his office before you leave." Amara's heart sank. "Did he say what it's about?" Barbara shook her head. "He just asked if you could stop by before heading out." Amara nodded and made her way to Derek's corner office. The door was open, and she could see him staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the Chicago skyline. She knocked softly on the door frame. Derek turned around. "Miss Fields." "Come in, please. Close the door behind you." Amara did as instructed, then stood in front of his desk, her posture straight, her expression neutral. "How was your first day?" Derek asked, gesturing for her to sit. "Fine, thank you," Amara replied, remaining standing. "Barbara is an excellent trainer," Derek nodded, studying her face. "I wanted to make sure you feel comfortable here. We value all our employees at Maddox Innovations." The irony of his statement wasn't lost on Amara. She simply nodded. "Is there anything specific you needed from me, Mr. Maddox? I was just heading out." Derek seemed thrown by her cool demeanor. He was used to people, especially women, being eager to please him, to laugh at his jokes, to seek his approval. "I just wanted to welcome you personally," he said finally. "You'll be the face of Maddox Innovations at the front desk. First impressions matter." "Yes, they do," Amara agreed, her eyes locked with his. "Is there anything else, sir?" Derek hesitated, then shook his head. "No, that's all. Have a good evening, Miss Fields." You too, Mr. Maddox. Amara turned and walked out, closing the door behind her. Once alone, Derek ran a hand through his hair. Something about Amara Fields unsettled him, the way she looked at him, like she could see right through his carefully constructed image to the uncertain man beneath. It was unnerving. And worse, he couldn't stop thinking about how wrong he'd been in that podcast. The woman who had just left his office was not just beautiful, she was striking in a way that made him question everything he thought he knew about beauty. For the next 2 weeks, Amara settled into her role at Maddox Innovations. She excelled at the job, quickly learning everyone's names, anticipating needs before they arose, and handling even the most difficult clients with grace and professionalism. Derek found himself watching her from a distance. Unlike his previous receptionists who wore revealing clothes and flirted with him, Amara dressed modestly in elegant, professional attire. She was unfailingly polite, but kept her interactions with him brief and formal. One afternoon, as Amara was organizing files at her desk, she overheard a conversation between Derek and Jessica, the PR director. "The interview with Business Today is confirmed for tomorrow," Jessica was saying. "They've agreed not to ask about the podcast, but you need to be prepared in case they go back on their word." "I told you I'm not addressing it," Derek replied firmly. "It was taken out of context." "Was it?" Jessica challenged. "Because I've listened to the full interview and it sounds pretty clear to me." "Drop it, Jessica," Derek warned. "I know what I'm doing." As they approached the front desk, Amara quickly resumed her work, but not before Derek caught her watching them. Their eyes met briefly before Amara looked away. "Good afternoon, Mr. Maddox, Ms. Parker." She greeted them professionally. Jessica smiled warmly. "Amara, right? I've heard great things about you from Barbara. She says you're catching on faster than any temp we've had." "Thank you," Amara replied with a small smile. "That's kind of her to say." Derek stood awkwardly, watching the exchange. He cleared his throat. "Ms. Fields, could you please have coffee ready in the main conference room at 3 p.m.? I have clients coming in." "Of course, Mr. Maddox." As Derek and Jessica walked away, Derek looked back over his shoulder. Amara had already returned to her work, her expression serene and focused. "She's good," Jessica commented as they entered the elevator. "Professional, efficient, elegant. We should try to keep her after Julie comes back." Derek nodded distractedly. "She doesn't seem to like me very much." Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Can you blame her after what you said on that podcast?" "You think she's heard it?" "Derek, everyone has heard it. It's been played on every social media platform and news outlet for the past month." Derek fell silent. Of course Amara had heard it, and of course she would despise him for it. The thought bothered him more than he wanted to admit. That evening, as Amara was preparing to leave, she received a delivery of elaborate flower arrangements for the conference rooms. As she was distributing them, she didn't notice Derek approaching until he spoke. "Those are nice." Amara looked up, startled. "Yes, they are. The florist just delivered them." Derek nodded, hands in his pockets, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "You've been doing great work these past 2 weeks. Everyone's noticed." "Thank you," Amara replied, adjusting a lily in one of the arrangements. "I was wondering—" Derek hesitated. "Would you be interested in attending the charity gala this weekend? As my assistant?" Amara looked up, surprised. "Isn't that Jessica's job? She's out of town for a family emergency. I need someone to help me navigate the event, keep track of important contacts, that sort of thing." Amara considered his request. It would mean spending an entire evening with a man she found morally reprehensible, but it would also mean networking opportunities with Chicago's business elite, connections that could help her future career. "It would be outside normal working hours," Derek added quickly. "You'd be compensated accordingly." "I see," Amara said carefully. "When is it?" "Saturday evening. Black tie. I can arrange for a car to pick you up." Amara nodded slowly. "All right, Mr. Maddox. I'll assist you at the gala." "Great," Derek said, looking relieved. "I'll have Jessica's assistant email you the details before she leaves." After he walked away, Amara pulled out her phone and texted Maya. "You won't believe what just happened." When she explained about the gala invitation, Maya responded immediately. "Girl, this is your chance. Get him alone and tell him exactly what you think of his podcast comments." Amara smiled slightly. "Not trying to get fired on my 3rd week." "Fine," Maya texted back. "But wear something stunning. Show him exactly how wrong he is." Saturday evening arrived, and Amara stood in front of her mirror, examining her reflection. After much deliberation, she had chosen a floor-length gown in deep emerald green. The dress was elegant and sophisticated, high-necked in the front with an open back, fitted through the bodice with a flowing skirt. She wore her hair up in an elaborate twist, with a few curls framing her face. The doorbell rang precisely at 7 p.m. Amara grabbed her clutch and wrap, then opened the door to find not a driver, but Derek himself, standing in her hallway in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. "Mr. Maddox," she said, unable to hide her surprise. "I thought you were sending a car." Derek seemed equally taken aback, his eyes widening as he took in her appearance. For a moment, he simply stared. "You look stunning," he finally managed. "Thank you," Amara replied coolly. "Shall we go?" The ride to the gala was mostly silent. Derek attempted small talk about the weather and Chicago traffic, which Amara answered politely but briefly. As they pulled up to the venue, an historic hotel downtown, Derek turned to her. "There will be press inside. They'll take photos of everyone arriving, just so you're prepared." Amara nodded. "I understand." As they walked the red carpet, flashbulbs went off in their faces. Reporters called out Derek's name, asking for a pose, a comment, a reaction to the podcast controversy. Derek ignored the questions, smiling confidently for the cameras, with his hand lightly touching Amara's back. Inside, the ballroom was a sea of Chicago's wealthiest and most influential people. Derek introduced Amara to everyone as "my assistant, Ms. Fields," but she noticed the speculative glances, the raised eyebrows, the whispered comments behind hands. They were wondering if she was his date, if she was the reason he hadn't apologized for his comments, if she was the exception that proved his rule. The thought made her skin crawl. Throughout the evening, Amara performed her duties perfectly, reminding Derek of people's names, noting potential business contacts, scheduling follow-up meetings on his phone. She was professional, efficient, and distant. During dinner, she was seated next to Derek at a table with several other CEOs and their partners. The conversation inevitably turned to the latest social media controversy. "So, Derek," said a silver-haired man Amara recognized as the owner of a major sports franchise, "how are you handling all this podcast business? Must be tough having your words twisted like that." Derek took a sip of his champagne. "I've found it's best not to engage. These things blow over if you don't feed them." "Smart man," the older CEO nodded. "All this political correctness these days. Can't say anything without someone getting offended." Amara kept her eyes on her plate, her jaw tight. Derek glanced at her, then back at the man. "Actually," Derek said slowly, "sometimes when people get offended, it's because something offensive was said." The table fell silent. The older CEO looked surprised, then chuckled uncomfortably. "Well, sure, but you know how it is. Private conversation between men gets out. Suddenly everyone's analyzing every word." "Indeed," Derek replied, his expression unreadable. After dinner, as the dancing began, Amara excused herself to visit the ladies' room. When she returned, she found Derek waiting for her near the entrance to the ballroom. "Would you like to dance?" he asked unexpectedly. Amara hesitated. "I don't think that would be appropriate, Mr. Maddox. I'm here as your assistant." "Just one dance," he pressed. "Please." Against her better judgment, Amara nodded. Derek led her onto the dance floor just as the band began playing a slow jazz number. He placed one hand on her waist, keeping a respectful distance between them as they moved to the music. "Thank you for coming tonight," Derek said quietly. "You've been a tremendous help." "Just doing my job, Mr. Maddox." "Derek," he corrected. "When we're not in the office, please call me Derek." Amara didn't respond. They continued dancing in silence for a moment before Derek spoke again. "You've heard it, haven't you? The podcast." Amara's eyes met his. "Yes. And what did you think?" She didn't answer immediately, considering her words carefully. "I think," she finally said, "that you revealed more about yourself than you intended to." Derek winced slightly. "I didn't mean—" "With all due respect, Mr. Maddox," Amara cut him off, "what you meant doesn't matter as much as what you said. And what you said was hurtful to millions of women who look like me." The music ended, and Amara stepped back from his hold. "If you'll excuse me, I think I've fulfilled my duties for the evening. I'll call a car to take me home." Derek reached for her arm. "Amara, wait, please." She paused, looking pointedly at his hand until he removed it. "Do you think I'm the man I pretend to be?" he asked quietly, his eyes searching hers. Amara regarded him steadily. "I think you're the man you were allowed to become." Without waiting for his response, she turned and walked away, leaving Derek standing alone on the dance floor, her words echoing in his mind. Outside, as Amara waited for her rideshare, she took a deep breath of the cool night air. She didn't regret what she'd said, but she wondered if she'd still have a job on Monday morning. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "How's it going with Mr. Foot in Mouth?" Amara smiled wryly and replied, "Just told the boss exactly what I think of him, either getting fired or making history. We'll let you know which tomorrow." As her car pulled up, Amara took one last look at the glittering hotel. Through the windows, she could see Derek standing alone at the bar, staring into his drink as if it might contain the answers he was seeking. For a brief moment, she felt a flicker of something unexpected. Not pity exactly, but a curiosity about the man behind the careless words and practiced smile. Then she got into the car and headed home, certain that whatever happened next would change both their lives in ways neither could predict. Monday morning arrived, and Amara walked into the office with her head held high, unsure if she would still have a job. She had spent Sunday alternating between anxiety and defiance, replaying her conversation with Derek at the gala over and over in her mind. Barbara greeted her with a warm smile. "Good morning, Amara. I heard you were a big hit at the charity gala on Saturday." Amara raised an eyebrow. "You did?" "Oh, yes. Mr. Maddox's assistant called me yesterday, said you were perfectly professional and made quite an impression on the board members." Relief washed over Amara. It seemed she wasn't being fired, at least not yet. She settled at her desk and began her morning routine, checking emails, organizing the day's schedule, and preparing for visitors. Around 9:30, the elevator doors opened, and Derek walked in, dressed in a charcoal grey suit, his expression unreadable. "Good morning, Mr. Maddox," Amara greeted him, her tone professional. Derek paused at her desk. "Ms. Fields, could I see you in my office when you have a moment?" "Of course." "Right away?" He nodded. "Please." Amara followed him to his corner office, her pulse quickening despite her determination to remain calm. Once inside, Derek closed the door and gestured for her to sit in one of the chairs facing his desk. "I wanted to thank you for your assistance on Saturday," he began, taking his seat behind the desk. "You're welcome," Amara replied carefully. "And I want to apologize." This caught Amara by surprise. Apologize for putting you in an uncomfortable position. "I realized after you left that bringing you to the gala might have seemed calculated, like I was using you to deflect from the podcast controversy." Amara regarded him steadily. "Was that your intention?" Derek leaned back in his chair. "Honestly, I don't know. Maybe partly, but I also genuinely needed assistance, and you're exceptionally good at your job." He paused, then added, "And what you said to me about being the man I was allowed to become, it's been on my mind ever since." Amara didn't respond, waiting to see where this conversation was heading. "I've never been called out like that before," Derek continued. "People either agree with me or they want something from me. No one just tells me the truth. That's the problem with wealth and power, Mr. Maddox. It creates a barrier between you and reality." Derek nodded slowly. "I'm beginning to see that." He took a deep breath. "I'd like to understand more about what you meant. Would you be willing to have lunch with me today? To continue our conversation?" Amara hesitated. "I'm not sure that would be appropriate. I work for you. Professional lunch. In the building. The company dining room on the 35th floor. Other employees will be present." Amara considered his request. Part of her wanted to decline, to keep her distance from this man whose careless words had hurt so many women like her. But another part was intrigued by his apparent willingness to listen. "All right," she finally agreed. "Lunch in the company dining room." "Thank you," Derek said, looking genuinely relieved. "Noon?" Amara nodded and returned to her desk, texting Maya immediately. "Boss just apologized and asked me to lunch to continue our conversation from the gala." Maya's response came seconds later. "What? Are you going?" "Yes. Company dining room. Very public. Just talking." "Girl, you've got him shook. Keep me posted." At noon, Amara took the elevator to the 35th floor. The company dining room was an elegant space with floor-to-ceiling windows offering spectacular views of Chicago. Derek was already seated at a corner table, checking his phone. He stood when he saw her approach. "Thank you for coming." They ordered their meals from the attentive waitstaff, and for a few minutes they made awkward small talk about the weather and office matters. Finally, Derek set down his water glass and looked directly at Amara. "I've never apologized for the podcast," he said bluntly. "My PR team advised me to issue a statement, but I refused." "Why?" Amara asked. Derek shrugged. "Pride, mostly. I built my brand on being brutally honest, not backing down. Apologizing felt like weakness. And now I'm sitting across from someone who makes me question everything I thought I knew." He paused as their food arrived, then continued. "Those things I said, they were thoughtless, cruel and completely wrong. Amara took a bite of her salad, considering her response. Why did you say them? Derek looked uncomfortable. I was trying to sound edgy, to get a laugh from Tyler. We were just two guys talking, not thinking about who might be listening or who might be hurt. That's often when people reveal what they truly believe, Amara observed. But that's just it. I don't believe that, Derek insisted. I don't know why I said it. It's like, sometimes I hear my own voice saying these things, and I don't even recognize myself. Amara studied him thoughtfully. We all have blind spots, Mr. Maddox, especially when it comes to people who are different from us. Derek, he corrected gently. Please call me Derek, at least when we're not in front of other employees. Amara nodded. All right, Derek, tell me about yourself, he said suddenly. Where did you study? What brought you to Chicago? I have a master's in cultural anthropology from Howard University, Amara replied. I taught at a small college in Virginia for 3 years before moving here. Why the career change? Amara sighed. Burnout, mainly. Academia can be draining, especially for women of color. I needed a break to figure out my next move. Derek nodded, listening intently. What was your research focus? Beauty standards across cultures. Specifically, how Western ideals have influenced global perceptions of beauty. Derek winced slightly. No wonder my podcast comments hit a nerve. They were particularly ironic, given my academic background. Amara agreed with a small smile. I'd like to learn more, Derek said earnestly, about your research, your perspective. Would you recommend some books or articles I could read? Amara was surprised by his request. You want to read academic articles on beauty standards? Yes, Derek replied simply. I want to understand. Amara considered him for a moment, then pulled out her phone. I'll email you a reading list. Start with The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf and Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde. Thank you, Derek said, looking genuinely grateful. I appreciate it. As they finished their lunch, their conversation shifted to more neutral topics. Favorite places in Chicago, books they'd enjoyed, travels they'd taken. Amara was surprised to find Derek to be a thoughtful conversationalist when he wasn't performing his public persona. When they returned to the office, Derek paused at Amara's desk. Thank you for today. It was enlightening. You're welcome, Amara replied, still cautious but slightly less cold than before. Over the next few weeks, something shifted between them. Derek began stopping by Amara's desk each morning, not just to say hello, but to discuss the books and articles she'd recommended. He asked questions, genuine, thoughtful questions, about her perspective on race, gender, and beauty standards. To Amara's surprise, he was actually reading everything she suggested. He'd come in with highlighted passages, notes in the margins, and follow-up questions that showed he was engaging deeply with the material. I never thought about how beauty standards are tied to economic systems, he commented one morning, referencing a chapter from The Beauty Myth. It's all connected, Amara replied. When women are busy trying to achieve impossible beauty standards, they have less time and energy to challenge the status quo. Derek nodded thoughtfully. I've been thinking a lot about my mother lately. This caught Amara's attention. Derek had never mentioned his family before. Oh? She is a black woman, Derek said hesitantly. My father is white. They divorced when I was 5, and my father got custody. I haven't seen my mother since I was a teenager. Amara was stunned. You're biracial, Derek nodded, looking uncomfortable. I don't talk about it. I've always passed. Let people assume I'm white or maybe Mediterranean. It was easier. Easier how? Less questions, less obstacles. My father always told me not to complicate things by bringing up my mother's race. He rubbed his face tiredly. I'm not proud of it. Amara processed this revelation. It added a layer of complexity to Derek's thoughtless podcast comments. Self-hatred, perhaps. Rejection of a part of himself he'd been taught to hide. Thank you for telling me, she said finally. Derek looked relieved. I've never told anyone at the company. Not even the board members know. Why tell me? Because you make me want to be honest about everything. Their conversation was interrupted by Jessica, the PR director, approaching with an urgent expression. Derek, we need to talk. Now. My office. Derek excused himself and followed Jessica. Through the glass walls of her office, Amara could see an intense discussion taking place. Jessica gesturing emphatically, Derek shaking his head, both looking increasingly frustrated. Later that afternoon, Derek stopped by Amara's desk again. Would you be willing to get coffee with me after work? There's something I need to discuss with you. Amara hesitated. Their lunch in the company dining room was one thing, but meeting outside of work felt like crossing a line. It's important, Derek added. Please. All right, Amara agreed. Where? There's a quiet coffee shop around the corner. 6 o'clock? Amara nodded, curious despite her reservations. The coffee shop was a small, cozy place with worn leather armchairs and soft jazz playing in the background. Derek was already there when Amara arrived, 2 cups of coffee on the table in front of him. I hope you like lattes, he said as she sat down. I do, thank you. Amara took a sip. What did you want to discuss? Derek sighed heavily. Jessica showed me something today, a connection I wasn't aware of. He pulled out his tablet and slid it across the table. My company has been investing in a think tank called the Institute for Cultural Metrics. Amara scrolled through the document on the screen, her stomach tightening as she read. The institute was known for publishing questionable research on racial differences, including studies that attempted to quantify beauty along racial lines. You're funding this? She asked, her voice cool. Not directly. It's a subsidiary investment through one of our venture funds. I didn't know about it until today. Derek ran a hand through his hair. Jessica found the connection while preparing for potential questions about the podcast controversy. And you're still invested? For now. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Derek leaned forward. I want to pull our funding, but I need to understand exactly what they're doing and why it's harmful. I need to be able to explain it to the board in terms they'll understand. Amara studied him carefully. You want me to help you build a case against this think tank? Yes. You have the academic background to analyze their so-called research and explain why it's flawed. I could pay you as a consultant outside your regular duties. Amara felt conflicted. On one hand, helping Derek divest from this organization would be a concrete step toward making amends for his podcast comments. On the other hand, it meant becoming more deeply involved with him personally. I need to think about it, she said finally. Of course, Derek nodded. Take your time. As they finished their coffee, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Derek mentioned a new exhibit at the Art Institute on cultural representations in modern art. I was thinking of going this weekend, he said casually. Would you be interested in joining me? Strictly as colleagues, of course. Amara raised an eyebrow. The Art Institute. I thought it might relate to your research interests, Derek explained quickly, and I could use someone knowledgeable to help me understand the cultural context of the pieces. Amara couldn't help but smile at his transparent attempt to spend more time with her. Are you asking me on a date, Mr. Maddox? Derek looked flustered, a rare sight for the usually confident CEO. I'm asking for your expertise, but yes, I would enjoy your company. I'll think about that too, Amara replied, gathering her things. Good night, Derek. Good night, Amara. That night, Amara called Maya for advice. He's biracial, Maya exclaimed after Amara filled her in. And he wants you to help him pull funding from a racist think tank. Girl, this is getting complicated. I know, Amara sighed. What should I do? About the think tank or about the art museum? Both. Maya was quiet for a moment. The think tank is a no-brainer. Help him defund those people. As for the museum, do you like him? I don't know, Amara admitted. He's not who I thought he was. There's more depth there, more complexity, and he seems genuinely interested in learning and changing. But I keep hearing that podcast in my head, those casual, cruel words, and I wonder if I'm just falling for a performance. Trust your instincts, Maya advised. You're a good judge of character. If you think he's sincere, give him a chance. Not necessarily romantically, but at least as someone capable of growth. After hanging up, Amara made her decision. She would help Derek with the think tank research. And yes, she would go to the Art Institute with him. Not as a date, but as an opportunity to see if his transformation was genuine. Saturday afternoon, Amara met Derek on the steps of the Art Institute. He was dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, a stark contrast to his usual business attire. He looked younger, more approachable. Thank you for coming, he said, smiling warmly. Thank you for the invitation, Amara replied. I've been wanting to see this exhibit. As they walked through the galleries, Amara was impressed by Derek's genuine interest in the art. He asked thoughtful questions about the cultural significance of various pieces, listening intently to her explanations and offering his own observations. In front of a striking painting by a Nigerian artist, Derek paused. This reminds me of a photo my mother once showed me, from her hometown in Lagos. You've never been there? Amara asked. Derek shook his head. No. After the divorce, my father didn't want me confused by too much exposure to my mother's culture. We lived in Connecticut in a very white community. I saw my mother only a few times a year, then not at all after I turned 12. That must have been difficult. I didn't understand what I was losing at the time, Derek said quietly. I just knew that being more like my father meant an easier life, so I distanced myself from everything that connected me to my mother. They moved to the next gallery, which featured photographs of women from various cultures around the world. They're all beautiful, Derek murmured, studying the portraits, in completely different ways. That's the point of the exhibit, Amara explained, to challenge the Western-centric beauty standards that dominate global media. Derek turned to her. I've been thinking about reaching out to my mother. It's been almost 20 years. Do you know where she is? Yes, she's a professor at NYU now, African Studies. Amara smiled. Sounds like intelligence runs in the family. She's brilliant, Derek agreed. Much smarter than me. She tried to keep in touch, but I was resistant, trying too hard to fit into my father's world. It's never too late to rebuild that relationship, Amara said gently. I wouldn't know where to begin. Start with, I'm sorry. It's usually a good first step. After the museum, they walked to a nearby cafe for a late lunch. Their conversation flowed easily, covering everything from art to music to their favorite childhood memories. For the first time, Amara saw Derek laugh genuinely, not the practiced chuckle he used in business settings, but a real, spontaneous laugh that transformed his face. As they were finishing their meal, Derek's phone rang. He checked the screen and frowned. It's Jessica. I should take this. He stepped outside to answer the call, returning a few minutes later with a troubled expression. Everything okay? Amara asked. Not really. The board found out I'm looking into pulling our investment from the Institute for Cultural Metrics. One of the board members, Richard Caldwell, is apparently close friends with the Institute's director. He's calling an emergency meeting for Monday morning. What will you do? Stand my ground, Derek replied firmly. But I could use your help preparing. Would you be willing to come to my apartment tomorrow to go over the research and help me build my case? Amara hesitated. Meeting at his apartment felt too personal, too intimate. We could meet at a coffee shop instead, Derek suggested, sensing her discomfort. Or the office. The office would be better, Amara agreed. Around noon? Perfect. Thank you. As they parted ways, Derek surprised her by taking her hand briefly. I had a wonderful time today, Amara. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and perspective. His touch was warm, his eyes sincere. Amara found herself smiling. I enjoyed it too. Sunday at the office, Amara and Derek worked side by side in the conference room, surrounded by printouts of the Institute's research papers and financial reports. Look at this methodology, Amara pointed out. They surveyed only 200 people, mostly white college students, then made sweeping claims about universal beauty standards. It's not just racist, it's bad science. Derek nodded, making notes. And here they claim to have objective measures of facial symmetry, but their baseline is entirely based on European features. Exactly. They're presenting cultural bias as scientific fact. As they worked, Derek occasionally asked Amara about her own research. Genuinely interested in her academic perspective, she found herself sharing stories from her teaching days, the challenges she'd faced in academia, and her hopes for returning to research someday. You miss it, Derek observed. Teaching, research, that world. I do, Amara admitted, but I needed a break. Academia can be exhausting when you're constantly having to justify your presence in the room. What would it take for you to go back? Amara considered the question. The right opportunity, a supportive environment, funding for meaningful research, not just what's trendy or commercially viable. Derek made a note on his pad but didn't comment further. By late afternoon, they had compiled a comprehensive analysis of the Institute's flawed research and the potential reputational damage to Maddox innovations from the association. This is excellent work, Derek said, reviewing their presentation. The board won't be able to ignore these facts. Don't be so sure, Amara cautioned. People have a remarkable ability to ignore facts that challenge their worldview. Then I'll make it about the bottom line. Show them how this association could hurt our stock price and customer loyalty. Amara smiled sadly. Now you're speaking their language. As they packed up their materials, Derek paused. Amara, I want to thank you, not just for today, but for everything these past few weeks. You've changed the way I see the world. You did that yourself, Derek. I just provided some resources. No, it's more than that. He took a step closer. You saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. A capacity to be better, to do better. The intensity in his eyes made Amara's heart beat faster. For a moment she thought he might kiss her. Part of her wanted him to. Instead, he took a step back. I should go prepare for tomorrow's meeting. It's going to be challenging. Good luck, Amara said, meaning it. I hope the board listens to reason. Monday morning, Amara arrived at work to find the office buzzing with tension. Board members in expensive suits strode past her desk without their usual greetings, heading straight for the main conference room. Barbara leaned over. Something big is happening. Mr. Maddox has been in there since 7 a.m. Around noon, the conference room door finally opened. The board members filed out, some looking angry, others confused. Richard Caldwell, a silver-haired man in his 60s, stopped at Amara's desk. "So you're the new girl," he said, his tone condescending, filling Derek's head with all sorts of progressive ideas. Amara met his gaze coolly. "I'm the front desk assistant, Mr. Caldwell. I answer phones and greet visitors." "Don't play innocent with me, young lady. I know you've been influencing him." Before Amara could respond, Derek appeared behind Caldwell. "Richard, your car is waiting downstairs." Caldwell gave Amara one last disapproving look before heading to the elevator. Derek waited until he was gone before turning to Amara. "Could I see you in my office, please?" Once inside, Derek closed the door and leaned against his desk, looking exhausted but relieved. "It's done. We're pulling all investments from the Institute and any associated organizations." "That's wonderful," Amara said. "How did the board take it?" "Most of them came around when they saw the research and understood the potential PR disaster. Richard was the only real holdout, but he was outvoted." "Will there be consequences for you?" Derek shrugged. "Richard threatened to resign. I told him I'd accept his resignation effective immediately. He's been looking for a reason to fight me on leadership decisions for months." "That's a big move," Amara observed. "He's been with the company since the beginning, hasn't he?" "Yes, but the company is evolving and so am I." Derek straightened up. "Which brings me to another decision I've made. I want to issue a public apology for the podcast comments." Amara raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Really? What changed your mind?" "You did," Derek said simply. "You made me see that refusing to apologize wasn't strength. It was cowardice. I was wrong, and I need to own that publicly. Your PR team will be relieved. Actually, I've already recorded the apology. No PR team, no script. Just me speaking honestly." He picked up his tablet and handed it to Amara. "I'd like you to watch it before I post it. Tell me if it seems sincere." Amara took the tablet and pressed play. On screen, Derek looked directly into the camera, his expression serious. "My name is Derek Maddox, and a few weeks ago, I said something inexcusable on a podcast. I made derogatory comments about black women that were not only offensive, but completely wrong. I've spent the past month listening and learning, and I now understand the harm my words caused. I'm deeply sorry, not just for what I said, but for the attitude behind those words. I have no excuse. I was wrong, and I apologize unreservedly to the women I hurt with my thoughtless comments." The video continued for another minute, with Derek pledging to do better and outlining concrete steps he was taking, including the withdrawal of funding from organizations promoting harmful beauty standards. When it ended, Amara looked up to find Derek watching her anxiously. "Well, is it enough?" "It's a good start," Amara said honestly. "The real test will be in your actions going forward." Derek nodded. "I know, and I have a lot of work to do." He hesitated, then added, "There's something else I wanted to discuss with you. A proposition." "A proposition?" "A professional one," he clarified quickly. "I'd like to create a new position within the company, Director of Cultural Research and Education. The role would involve developing training programs on diversity and inclusion, researching cultural trends that might impact our products, and advising the executive team on issues of representation." Amara's eyes widened as she realized what he was suggesting. "And you want me to fill this position?" "Yes, you have the academic background, the research experience, and the personal insight that would make you perfect for the role. It would be a significant salary increase from your current position with a budget for staff and resources." Amara was stunned. "Derek, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to decide right away," he assured her. "Take some time to think about it. I can have HR send over a formal proposal with all the details." "This is unexpected." "Is it?" Derek smiled slightly. "You're brilliant, Amara. You're wasted answering phones. And the company would benefit enormously from your expertise." "And what about us?" Amara asked hesitantly. "The dynamic between us has changed. Wouldn't that complicate a professional relationship?" Derek's expression grew serious. "I won't deny that I've developed feelings for you, Amara, But this job offer is separate from that. It's based entirely on your qualifications and what you could bring to the company. If you're not interested in exploring a personal relationship, I'll respect that completely and maintain strict professional boundaries. Amara nodded slowly. I need time to think. Of course. Take all the time you need. As Amara turned to leave, Derek called after her softly. Amara, she paused at the door. Yes? Whatever you decide about the job, thank you for making me a better man. Amara smiled. You were always capable of being that man, Derek. You just needed someone to hold up a mirror. That evening, as Amara walked home from the train station, her phone rang. It was Maya. Well, how did the board meeting go? Did they pull the funding? They did, Amara confirmed. And Derek fired the board member who objected. Damn, he's really changing, huh? It seems that way. Amara hesitated. He offered me a job. What kind of job? Director of Cultural Research and Education. It's a new position he's creating. Maya whistled. That's huge. Are you going to take it? I don't know. It's exactly the kind of work I'd love to do, combining my academic background with practical applications. But you're falling for him, Maya finished. Amara sighed. Maybe. And that complicates things. Look, from everything you've told me, he seems genuinely committed to changing. The podcast apology, cutting ties with that think tank, creating this position, those are real actions, not just words. I know. But it's happening so fast. Sometimes transformation is like that, Maya said thoughtfully. One moment of clarity leads to a cascade of changes. As Amara reached her apartment building, she noticed a delivery person leaving. Inside her building, a large package was propped against her door. I gotta go, Maya. There's a delivery I need to deal with. Inside her apartment, Amara opened the package to find a beautiful carved wooden bookshelf along with a note. For all those books you recommended. They've changed my life, and I thought they deserved a proper home. No strings attached, just a thank you. Derek. Amara ran her fingers over the smooth wood, touched by the thoughtful gift. It wasn't flashy or expensive, just practical and meaningful, showing that he had actually listened to her. As she placed her books on the new shelf, her phone pinged with a news alert. Derek's apology video had gone viral, with overwhelmingly positive responses. Many were calling it one of the most genuine apologies they'd seen from a public figure. Amara smiled to herself. Maybe people really could change. Maybe Derek Maddox wasn't just the man he had been allowed to become. He was becoming the man he chose to be. Her phone rang again. An unknown number. Curious, she answered. Hello? Is this Amara Fields? A woman's voice asked. Yes, this is she. My name is Dr. Nadia Maddox. I believe you know my son, Derek. Amara nearly dropped the phone in surprise. Dr. Maddox. Yes, I know Derek. He called me yesterday, after 20 years of silence. The woman's voice was rich and warm with a hint of an accent. He told me about you, about how you've helped him reconnect with the part of himself he tried to forget. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything, my dear. I just wanted to thank you, and to ask if you might be willing to meet me. I'm flying to Chicago tomorrow. Derek doesn't know. I thought perhaps we could have lunch. Amara hesitated only briefly. I'd like that very much, Dr. Maddox. Wonderful, and please call me Nadia. After hanging up, Amara sat on her couch, her mind racing. Meeting Derek's mother, the woman he had distanced himself from for decades, felt significant. It was another piece of the puzzle that was Derek Maddox. Her phone pinged with a text from Derek. Did you receive the bookshelf? I hope it wasn't too presumptuous. Amara smiled and replied, It's perfect. Thank you. She hesitated, then added, I've been thinking about your job offer. Could we discuss it more tomorrow? His response came immediately. Of course. Lunch in my office. 1 p.m. Perfect, Amara texted back. She didn't mention that she would be meeting his mother beforehand. That would be Nadia's secret to share when she was ready. As Amara placed the last of her books on the new shelf, she reflected on the whirlwind of the past month. From despising Derek Maddox for his thoughtless podcast comments to seeing him transform before her eyes, it was a journey she never could have anticipated, and it was far from over. The next morning, Amara dressed with extra care, selecting a deep blue dress that was both professional and flattering. She was meeting Derek's mother for breakfast at 9 a.m. at a small cafe near the office. As she walked into the cafe, she immediately spotted a striking woman sitting alone by the window. Dr. Nadia Maddox was in her early 60s, with elegant silver streaks in her dark hair, warm brown skin, and the same intense eyes as her son. She stood as Amara approached. Amara, she said warmly, extending her hands. "Thank you for meeting me. Thank you for reaching out, Doctor." "Maddox," Amara replied, taking the offered hands. "Please sit and call me Nadia." She gestured to the chair across from her. I took the liberty of ordering coffee. After they settled in and placed their breakfast orders, Nadia studied Amara intently. "So you're the woman who brought my son back to himself," she said finally. "Derek told me you've been helping him understand his blind spots." Amara shifted uncomfortably. "I wouldn't put it that way. He's been doing the work himself." "But you provided the mirror," Nadia smiled. "That's no small thing. May I ask, what else did Derek tell you about me?" Amara asked carefully. "That you're brilliant, that you challenged him in ways no one ever has, that you saw through his carefully constructed facade." Nadia paused, her eyes twinkling. "And that you're beautiful," though he mentioned that almost as an afterthought, as if he was afraid to reduce you to your appearance. Amara couldn't help but smile at that. "He's learning." "Indeed." Nadia took a sip of her coffee. "He also told me about the podcast, those awful comments he made, and how meeting you made him question everything." Their food arrived, giving Amara a moment to gather her thoughts. "What was Derek like as a child?" she asked, genuinely curious. Nadia's expression softened with memory. Sensitive, observant, so eager to please. Her smile faded slightly. After the divorce, when he went to live with his father, things changed. William, Derek's father, was determined to shape him into a successful man, which to William meant stripping away anything soft, anything that showed vulnerability, and anything that connected him to you, Amara suggested gently. Nadia nodded, pain briefly crossing her features. "Yes, William saw my heritage as inconvenient. He moved Derek to Connecticut, to an overwhelmingly white community. He discouraged our visits, made them increasingly difficult to arrange. That must have been heartbreaking for you." "It was. But the truly tragic part was watching my son gradually internalize his father's values. Each time I saw him, he seemed more distant, more determined to fit into William's world." Nadia sighed. By the time he was 12, Derek had learned to hide any part of himself that didn't fit his father's image of success. "Including you," Amara said softly. "Including me." Nadia's eyes were sad, but clear. "The last time I saw him, he was 15. He told me he didn't want me to visit anymore, that it was embarrassing." Amara winced at the word. "I'm so sorry. I never stopped loving him. I sent cards, letters, emails, followed his career from a distance, saw him become exactly what his father wanted, successful, wealthy, hard. But now he's reaching out," Amara reminded her. "That must mean something." "It means everything," Nadia agreed, "and I have you to thank for it." Amara shook her head. "Derek made that choice himself, after meeting you," Nadia pointed out. "Tell me, Amara, what do you think of my son, not the public persona, but the man you've come to know?" Amara considered the question carefully. "I think he's someone who lost his way, but is finding it again. He's capable of change, of growth. He's listening and learning in ways that surprise me daily." "And your feelings for him?" Amara blushed slightly. "That's complicated." "Love usually is," Nadia said with a knowing smile, "especially when it comes unexpectedly." "I didn't say anything about love," Amara protested. "You didn't have to, my dear." Nadia reached across the table and patted Amara's hand. "Now, tell me about this job he's offered you." Amara explained the Director of Cultural Research and Education position, detailing the responsibilities and opportunities it presented. "It sounds perfect for you," Nadia observed. "Will you take it?" "I'm concerned about the personal complications," Amara admitted, "working closely with Derek while trying to figure out whatever this is between us." Nadia nodded thoughtfully. "A reasonable concern, but sometimes the most meaningful work comes with personal risks." She glanced at her watch. "I should let you go. I know you're meeting Derek for lunch." As they stood to leave, Nadia embraced Amara warmly. "Thank you for bringing my son back to me." "Will you see him while you're in Chicago?" Amara asked. "Yes. We're having dinner tonight." Nadia's eyes twinkled. "Another surprise for him. He's getting a lot of those lately," Amara observed with a smile. "Sometimes we need the unexpected to shake us out of old patterns," Nadia replied wisely. "I hope we'll meet again soon, Amara." "I'd like that," Amara said, surprised to realize how much she meant it. At work, Amara tried to focus on her regular duties, but her mind kept drifting to her breakfast with Nadia and her upcoming lunch with Derek. The more she learned about him, the more complex he became in her eyes. No longer the one-dimensional villain of the podcast, but a man shaped by complicated family dynamics and now struggling to redefine himself. Around 1 p.m., she made her way to Derek's office for their lunch meeting. He greeted her with a warm smile, gesturing to the small table by the window where lunch was already laid out. "I hope you like Thai food," he said. "I ordered from that place you mentioned last week." "It looks wonderful, thank you," Amara replied, touched by his thoughtfulness. As they settled in to eat, Derek seemed unusually nervous, fidgeting with his napkin and avoiding eye contact. "Is everything okay?" Amara asked. "Yes, sorry. He took a deep breath. "I have a dinner tonight that I'm a bit anxious about." Amara kept her expression neutral, though her heart warmed at his nervousness about seeing his mother. "Oh? Business dinner?" "Personal, actually. I'm seeing my mother for the first time in 20 years. "Wow," Amara said, genuinely impressed even though she already knew. "That's a big step. How did that come about?" "I called her yesterday," Derek admitted. "After our conversation about family and reconnecting with my roots. She's flying in from New York. How do you feel about it?" Derek rubbed his face. Terrified, excited, ashamed for waiting so long. He looked up at Amara. "What if she can't forgive me?" "From everything you've told me about her, she sounds like a remarkable woman," Amara said carefully. "I think she'll be overjoyed to have you back in her life." Derek smiled gratefully. "Thank you for that." He straightened, visibly pulling himself together. "But we're supposed to be discussing your job offer. Have you had a chance to think about it?" "I have," Amara said. "I'm interested, but I have some concerns." "About?" "The personal dynamics between us," she said honestly. "If I take this position, I'd be reporting directly to you while we're also exploring whatever this is between us." Derek nodded. "I've thought about that too. What if you reported to the board instead of directly to me? That would create some professional distance." "That could work," Amara agreed. "I'd also want autonomy to develop programs without interference, even if they challenge the status quo." "Absolutely. That's the whole point." Derek leaned forward earnestly. "Amara, I want you to transform how this company thinks about culture, diversity, and inclusion. I want you to push us to be better." His sincerity was evident, and Amara found herself warming to the idea. "I'd need a proper budget and staff, already approved by the board," Derek assured her. "Jessica can show you the numbers this afternoon if you'd like." "In that case," Amara said slowly, "I think I'd like to accept the position." Derek's face lit up with genuine pleasure. "That's wonderful. When can you start?" "I should give Barbara at least 2 weeks to find a replacement for the front desk." "Of course. Take all the time you need to transition. We can start setting up your office and hiring your team in the meantime." As they finished lunch, their conversation shifted to more personal topics. Derek asked about Amara's family, her childhood in Virginia, her dreams for the future. He listened intently, asking thoughtful follow-up questions and sharing his own experiences. "I should get back to work," Amara said eventually, glancing at her watch. As she stood to leave, Derek caught her hand gently. "Amara, about us. I want you to know that I respect your professional boundaries. The job is yours regardless of anything else." "I know," she said, squeezing his hand briefly before releasing it. "Good luck with your dinner tonight." "Thank you," he replied with a nervous smile. "I'll need it." The next morning, Amara arrived at work to find a beautiful bouquet of wildflowers on her desk. The card simply read, "She loved you. Thank you for giving me back my mother. D." Barbara noticed her smiling at the card. "Secret admirer." "Something like that," Amara replied, tucking the card into her purse. Around 10 a.m., Derek emerged from the elevator, looking happier and more relaxed than Amara had ever seen him. He stopped at her desk. "Good morning, Miss Fields," he said formally, though his eyes were warm. "Good morning, Mr. Maddox. How was your dinner?" "Life-changing," he replied simply. "My mother mentioned she met you for breakfast yesterday." Amara nodded. "She reached out to me. I hope that was okay." "More than okay. She thinks you're remarkable, by the way, her exact words." "She's pretty remarkable herself," Amara said sincerely. Derek smiled. "She's staying in town for a few days. She suggested dinner, the 3 of us, tomorrow night. Would you be interested?" "I'd like that very much." "Great. I'll make reservations and text you the details." He hesitated, then added softly, "Thank you, Amara, for everything." As he walked away, Amara felt a growing warmth in her chest. The changes in Derek were remarkable, not just in his words or promises, but in his actions, his demeanor, the light in his eyes when he spoke of reconnecting with his mother. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Updates?" Amara smiled and replied, "Taking the job. Having dinner with Derek and his mother tomorrow night. It's getting real. Maya's response was immediate. What? His mother? Call me ASAP. Over the next 2 weeks, Amara worked on transitioning her front desk responsibilities while simultaneously planning for her new role. Derek arranged for her to have a spacious office on the executive floor with a budget for staff and resources that exceeded her expectations. She and Derek maintained professional boundaries at work, but their personal relationship continued to develop through dinners, museum visits, and long conversations about books, culture, and their shared vision for the future. Nadia extended her stay in Chicago, reconnecting with her son and developing a warm friendship with Amara. The three often met for dinner, with Nadia sharing stories of Derek's childhood that made him blush and Amara laugh. One evening, as Amara was working late in her new office, there was a knock at her door. She looked up to see Richard Caldwell, the board member who had resigned over the think tank funding issue. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, surprised. "Can I help you?" "Ms. Fields," he replied, his tone cold. "May I come in?" Amara gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Of course." Caldwell entered but remained standing. "I'll be brief. I want you to know that I'm watching you. This influence you have over Derek Maddox may have fooled him and the rest of the board, but I see through it." Amara kept her expression neutral. "Is there something specific you wanted to discuss, Mr. Caldwell?" "I built this company alongside Derek," Caldwell continued, as if she hadn't spoken. "I mentored him, guided him, helped shape him into the successful man he is today. And now you've got him apologizing for speaking the truth, cutting ties with valuable research partners, and wasting company resources on feel-good diversity initiatives. The Institute for Cultural Metrics was producing flawed research that could have resulted in significant reputational damage to Maddox Innovations," Amara replied calmly. "And diversity isn't a feel-good initiative. It's a business imperative in a global marketplace." Caldwell's face reddened. "You think you've won, don't you? Seduced the CEO, secured yourself a cushy executive position, all while pushing your political agenda. That's enough, Richard." They both turned to see Derek standing in the doorway, his expression thunderous. "Derek," Caldwell started, "I was just having a friendly chat with—" "I heard exactly what you were saying," Derek cut him off, "and it was neither friendly nor acceptable." "You're not thinking clearly," Caldwell insisted. "This woman has—" "Choose your next words very carefully," Derek warned, his voice dangerously quiet, "because if you continue to disrespect Ms. Fields, I will have security escort you from the building." Caldwell looked between them, his face twisted with anger. "You've changed, Derek, and not for the better." "On that we disagree." Derek stepped aside, gesturing to the door. "Goodbye, Richard." After Caldwell stormed out, Derek turned to Amara. "Are you okay? I'm so sorry you had to experience that." "I'm fine," Amara assured him, "but it makes me wonder how many others in the company share his views." Derek sighed. Sitting in the chair Caldwell had refused. "Probably more than I'd like to admit, which is exactly why your work here is so important." He ran a hand through his hair. "Richard was my father's friend before he was mine. He helped me get started, invested in my first venture. I've always seen him as a mentor, but now you see the limitations of his worldview," Amara finished. "Exactly." Derek looked troubled. He was the one who recommended the Institute for Cultural Metrics as an investment opportunity, said it would balance the narrative on diversity issues. Amara frowned. "There's something I've been wondering about. How deep does this connection go? Was it just that one investment? Or are there others?" "I've been looking into that," Derek admitted. "After our research on the Institute, I asked our finance team to audit all our investments for similar connections. They're still compiling the report. When will it be ready? Tomorrow or the next day?" "Why?" Amara hesitated. "Just a feeling. The way Caldwell reacted seemed extreme even for someone resistant to change." Derek nodded thoughtfully. "I'll have the team prioritize it. In the meantime, please don't work alone so late. Caldwell shouldn't have access to the building anymore, but still." "I was just finishing up," Amara assured him. "Walk me out." As they rode the elevator down to the lobby, Derek took her hand. "Dinner tomorrow? My place? I'll cook." Amara raised an eyebrow. "You cook?" "My mother's been giving me lessons," Derek admitted with a sheepish grin. "I can now make exactly one meal without burning down the kitchen." "In that case, how could I refuse?" Amara laughed. "What time?" 7. I'll text you the address." Outside, as they waited for their respective cars, Derek leaned down and kissed her cheek softly. "Good night, Amara." "Good night, Derek," she replied, her cheek tingling from his touch. The next evening, Amara arrived at Derek's penthouse apartment precisely at 7. She had dressed casually in jeans and a soft sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She carried a bottle of wine and a small bouquet of flowers. Derek answered the door wearing jeans and a white button-down shirt, with the sleeves rolled up, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "Hi," he said, his face lighting up at the sight of her. "Come in." The apartment was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of Chicago, sleek modern furniture, and tasteful art on the walls. But what caught Amara's attention was the delicious aroma coming from the kitchen. "Something smells amazing," she commented, handing him the wine and flowers. "Jollof rice and grilled fish," Derek explained, leading her into the spacious kitchen where pots simmered on the stove. "My mother's recipe. She insisted I learn at least one dish from my Nigerian heritage." "I'm impressed," Amara said, watching as he expertly checked the rice. "Don't be too impressed yet. Wait until you taste it." He arranged the flowers in a vase. "Would you like a tour while the fish finishes cooking?" Derek showed her around the apartment, which was luxurious but somehow lacked personality, like a high-end hotel suite rather than a home. The only room that felt truly lived in was his study, lined with bookshelves filled with business and technology volumes. Amara noticed a new section on one shelf, filled with the books she had recommended to him, each showing signs of having been thoroughly read. Dog-eared pages, sticky notes, underlined passages. "You've been busy," she observed, touching the spine of Sister Outsider. "I'm still catching up on everything I should have learned years ago," Derek replied. "It's eye-opening." Back in the kitchen, Derek served the meal, watching nervously as Amara took her first bite. "This is delicious," she said sincerely. "Your mother taught you well." Derek looked pleased. "She's an excellent teacher, patient but firm." "Like mother, like son," Amara teased. "You seem to have inherited her teaching style." They ate companionably, discussing their days and the progress on Amara's new department. After dinner, they moved to the living room with glasses of wine, sitting close together on the sofa. "I got the investment audit report today," Derek said, his expression turning serious. "You were right to be concerned. The Institute was just the tip of the iceberg." "What did you find?" Amara asked, setting down her wine glass. "A pattern of investments in organizations with concerning agendas, think tanks promoting racial pseudoscience, media outlets pushing harmful stereotypes, data companies collecting and selling information that could be used for discriminatory purposes." Amara frowned. "All approved by the board?" "Not exactly. They were buried within larger investment packages, often through subsidiaries or shell companies. The board approved the overall investments, but the details were handled by our venture capital division, which was headed by Richard Caldwell," Derek confirmed. "And before you ask, yes, I knew about some of these investments. Not the full extent, not the specific agendas, but enough that I should have asked more questions." "Why didn't you?" Amara asked softly. Derek sighed, leaning back against the sofa. "Because they were profitable. Because I told myself business was business, separate from personal values. Because I didn't want to see what was right in front of me. And now? Now I see everything clearly." He turned to face her fully. "I'm severing all these connections, regardless of the financial impact. Some board members will fight it, but I'm prepared for that battle." "It won't be easy," Amara warned. "Men like Caldwell have power and influence beyond Maddox's innovations. I know, but I can't profit from systems that harm people, especially when those people include my own mother, women like you, communities I've denied being part of for too long." Amara reached out and took his hand. "I'm proud of you, Derek. These aren't easy realizations." "I couldn't have done it without you," he said, squeezing her hand. "You changed everything for me, Amara." "You changed yourself," she corrected gently. "I just helped you see what was possible." Derek reached up to touch her cheek, his eyes searching hers. "May I kiss you?" he asked softly. In answer, Amara leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened as Derek pulled her closer. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. "I've wanted to do that since the night of the gala," Derek admitted. "When you looked me in the eye and told me exactly who I was." "And who are you now?" Amara asked, her hand resting on his chest. "Still figuring that out," he replied honestly. "But I hope I'm becoming someone worthy of you." Amara smiled. "You're on the right path." They spent the rest of the evening talking, kissing, sharing stories and dreams until late into the night. When Amara finally gathered her things to leave, Derek walked her to the door. "Stay," he whispered, his arms around her waist. Amara shook her head gently. Not tonight. We both have big days tomorrow. You have the board meeting about the investments, and I have interviews for my new team. Derek nodded, understanding in his eyes. Dinner tomorrow after the board meeting? It's a date, Amara agreed, kissing him once more before leaving. The next morning, Amara arrived at work feeling lighter than she had in months. There was an excitement building in her chest about her new role, about Derek, about the possibilities stretching before her. As she stepped off the elevator, however, she immediately sensed something was wrong. The executive floor was buzzing with tension. Assistants huddled in whispered conversations. Worried glances directed her way. Jessica intercepted her before she reached her office. Amara, thank God you're here. Have you seen the news? No, what news? Jessica pulled her into a nearby conference room and closed the door. Richard Caldwell called a press conference this morning. He's making allegations against Derek, claiming he's been misappropriating company funds, making investment decisions without board approval, creating unnecessary positions for personal reasons. Amara's stomach dropped. He's talking about me. Not by name, but yes. Jessica looked grim. And that's not all. Someone leaked Derek's personal emails, including some between the two of you discussing the Institute for Cultural Metrics and other investments. Those emails don't contain anything inappropriate, Amara said, confused. They're about research and company policy. Yes, but they've been edited, taken out of context. Caldwell is painting Derek as a man being manipulated by, well, by you. Where is Derek now? Emergency meeting with the legal team. The board meeting has been postponed. Amara took a deep breath, trying to process this sudden attack. What can I do? Stay out of sight for now, Jessica advised. Let the legal team handle this. Derek specifically asked that you not speak to any reporters or board members until he's had a chance to talk to you. Amara nodded, her mind racing. I'll be in my office. Throughout the morning, Amara tried to focus on work, but her phone kept buzzing with texts from Maya and other friends who had seen the news. Are you okay? Maya wrote. This Caldwell guy is on every business channel trashing Derek and hinting about some woman who's using her influence inappropriately. They're not naming you yet, but people are speculating. I'm fine, Amara texted back. It's all lies. Derek is handling it. Around noon, there was a soft knock at her door. She looked up to see Nadia standing there, concern etched on her face. May I come in? Derek's mother asked. Of course, Amara replied, getting up to hug the older woman. Have you spoken to Derek? Briefly. He's in battle mode. Nadia sat down, her expression serious. Amara, I need to tell you something about Richard Caldwell. What about him? He and Derek's father were more than business associates. They were partners in every sense of the word. Nadia's eyes held old pain. William left me for Richard, though they kept their relationship private for business reasons. Amara stared at her in shock. Derek doesn't know? No. William insisted their relationship remain secret even from Derek. He was intensely homophobic in public despite his private life. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. Nadia sighed. After I learned about the affair, I confronted William. He responded by filing for divorce and seeking full custody of Derek, claiming I was an unfit mother, code for being a black woman who wouldn't stay silent about his betrayal. That's awful, Amara said softly. It was a different time, Nadia said with resignation. William had money, connections, and the color of his skin on his side. I was a young professor with limited resources. Why are you telling me this now? Because I believe Richard's attack is about more than business or politics. It's personal. He helped shape Derek in William's image, and now he sees you undoing all that work, helping Derek embrace parts of himself, including his connection to me, that Richard and William tried to erase. Amara nodded slowly, the pieces falling into place. We need to tell Derek. Yes, Nadia agreed. But first, you should see this. She handed Amara a folder. Financial records I've been gathering since Derek called me. Transactions between William's estate, Richard, and some of those organizations you've been investigating. Amara opened the folder, scanning the documents inside. These go back decades. Yes, William and Richard weren't just investing in these organizations. They were founding members, primary funders. This isn't about profit, Amara, it's ideology. Before Amara could respond, her office door burst open and Derek strode in, his face tight with tension. Amara, mother, are you both all right? He asked urgently. We're fine, Amara assured him. What's happening with Caldwell? It's getting ugly, Derek admitted. He's calling for my resignation, claiming I've been compromised by personal entanglements. Derek, Nadia said gently, there's something you need to know about Richard and your father. As Nadia explained the true nature of William and Richard's relationship, Derek's expression shifted from shock to anger to a deep, sad understanding. That explains so much, he said quietly when she finished. The way they were together, the control they both exerted over my life, the constant reinforcement of what a real man should be. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, Nadia said, touching his arm. I thought it might be too much, too soon. No, I needed to know this. Derek turned to Amara. And you need to know something too. I've just come from a meeting with the legal team. Caldwell is threatening to make our relationship public, to paint it as inappropriate, and you as an opportunist who seduced me for professional gain. Amara felt a cold knot form in her stomach. What does that mean for us, for my position? It means we have a choice to make, Derek said gravely. The lawyers suggest two options. Either we deny any personal relationship and claim we're strictly professional colleagues, or we go public ourselves, control the narrative, and weather the storm. What do you want to do? Amara asked. Derek took her hands in his. I want to stand by you, publicly, proudly. I want to defend the work we're doing together, both professionally and personally. But I won't make that decision alone. It affects your reputation, your career. Amara looked down at their joined hands, then at the folder Nadia had brought, evidence of decades of deliberate investment in organizations that promoted harmful ideologies about race, gender, and beauty. Show me the emails Caldwell leaked, she said firmly. Derek pulled out his phone and showed her the news articles featuring their correspondence. As Jessica had said, the emails had been selectively edited to make it appear that Amara was manipulating Derek into making business decisions based on personal bias rather than sound research. These are taken completely out of context, Amara observed. We have the full emails, the research reports, everything to disprove these allegations. Yes, but scandal sells better than truth, Derek said grimly. And Caldwell knows that. Amara straightened her shoulders, determination filling her. Then we give them a better story. We go public, not just about us, but about everything. The Institute, the other investments, Caldwell and your father's relationship, all of it. That would be nuclear, Derek warned. It could damage the company, the share price. Some things are more important than stock prices, Amara replied. You said it yourself. You can't profit from systems that harm people. Derek looked at her with admiration. You're remarkable, you know that? I know, Amara said with a small smile. Your mother already told me. Nadia laughed softly. Like recognizes like. Derek squeezed Amara's hands. Are you sure about this? Going public means scrutiny, criticism, possibly even threats. I'm sure, Amara said firmly. We have truth on our side. And each other. Derek nodded. Decision made. I'll call a press conference for tomorrow morning. We'll tell our story, the whole story, before Caldwell can spin any more lies. As they began planning their strategy, Amara felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in her life, she was fighting for something bigger than herself. Not just her own dignity and truth, but a fundamental change in how businesses operated, how beauty was defined, how power was wielded. And she wasn't fighting alone. She had Derek, a man transformed by love and truth. She had Nadia, wise and resilient after decades of her own battles. And she had her own strength, honed through years of navigating systems designed to diminish her worth. Together, they were a force that Richard Caldwell and his allies had never anticipated, and one they were woefully unprepared to face. The morning of the press conference, Amara stood in front of her closet, carefully considering her options. This would be her first public appearance alongside Derek, and she wanted to project strength, professionalism, and authenticity. She finally chose a tailored pantsuit in a rich burgundy color, paired with a cream blouse and simple gold jewelry. As she applied her makeup, her phone rang. It was Maya. Are you sure about this? Maya asked without preamble. Once you go public, there's no going back. I'm sure, Amara replied, her voice steady. Derek and I have nothing to hide. Caldwell is the one who should be worried. I saw him on the morning news. He's really pushing this narrative that you're some kind of manipulative seductress who's turned Derek against his board and company values. Amara sighed. The oldest trick in the book. Discredit the black woman by sexualizing and demonizing her. Exactly. Are you prepared for how ugly this might get? As prepared as I can be, Amara said, but we have the truth on our side, and some pretty compelling evidence. After hanging up, Amara took one final look in the mirror. The woman who stared back at her was poised, confident and determined, ready for whatever the day might bring. At Maddox Innovations, the largest conference room had been transformed for the press conference. Rows of chairs faced a long table with microphones. Camera crews were setting up along the sides of the room, and journalists milled about, speculating on what bombshells might be dropped. Derek was waiting for Amara in his office, dressed in a navy suit, his expression tense but resolved. Nadia sat nearby, elegant in a traditional Nigerian outfit of deep green and gold, her silver-streaked hair wrapped in a matching head tie. "You look beautiful," Derek said when Amara entered. "So do you," she replied with a small smile. "Both of you. Are we ready for this?" "As ready as we'll ever be," Derek said, checking his watch. "The legal team has approved our statements, and Jessica has the evidence folders ready for distribution to the press." "And the board?" Amara asked. "Split. Some are backing Caldwell. Others are reserving judgment until they hear our side." Derek ran a hand through his hair. "But regardless of what happens with the board, I'm doing this. The truth needs to come out." Nadia stood and took both their hands. "Whatever happens today, I am proud of you both. Standing for truth is never easy, but it is always right." A knock at the door announced Jessica's arrival. "It's time," she said. "The room is full and Caldwell just arrived with his attorney." Derek took a deep breath and offered his arm to Amara. "Shall we?" As they entered the conference room, cameras flashed and reporters called out questions. Derek led Amara to the table, where they sat with Nadia on one side and Jessica and the company's attorney on the other. Across the room, Richard Caldwell sat with his legal team, his expression cold and calculating. Derek leaned toward the microphone. "Thank you all for coming. I've called this press conference to address the allegations made by former board member Richard Caldwell and to share some important information about Maddox Innovations' past and future direction." The room quieted as Derek began to speak, his voice clear and confident. He acknowledged the podcast comments that had started everything, offering another public apology for his words. He explained how meeting Amara had challenged his thinking and led him to re-examine not just his personal beliefs, but his company's investments. "Ms. Fields is now our Director of Cultural Research and Education, a position created because it was sorely needed, not because of our personal relationship, which developed later and which we have kept separate from professional matters." Derek then addressed the leaked emails directly. "Mr. Caldwell has selectively edited our correspondence to create a false narrative. The complete emails, which we are providing to you today, show a professional exchange about research findings related to certain investments." Jessica's assistants began distributing folders to the press. These packets contain the full email exchanges, along with the research reports Ms. Fields compiled on the Institute for Cultural Metrics and other organizations. Derek continued. "What began as a review of one problematic investment led to the discovery of a pattern, one that extends back to the founding of Maddox Innovations and involves my late father, William Maddox, and Richard Caldwell." At this, Caldwell leaned forward, his face hardening. "Be careful, Derek," he called out. "You're treading on dangerous ground." "The ground of truth, Richard," Derek replied calmly. "Something you've avoided for decades." Derek then revealed the findings from their financial investigation, how his father and Caldwell had systematically funded organizations promoting racial pseudoscience and harmful beauty standards, hiding these investments within larger portfolios to avoid scrutiny. "These weren't just business decisions," Derek explained. "They were ideological ones, and they reflect values that Maddox Innovations no longer stands for." He then introduced Nadia, explaining that she was his mother, a fact that caused a stir among the reporters. "My mother is a black woman," Derek said, his voice strong and clear. "A fact I've hidden for most of my life out of misplaced shame and a desire to fit into the world my father created for me. That ends today." Nadia spoke briefly about her relationship with William Maddox and the painful separation from her son. She did not reveal the personal nature of William and Richard's relationship, focusing instead on the professional connections and shared investments. When it was Amara's turn to speak, she addressed the allegations against her directly. "I came to Maddox Innovations as a temporary front desk assistant while figuring out my next career move. I had no agenda beyond doing my job well. When I discovered the company's connection to organizations whose work I had criticized in my academic research, I provided that research to Mr. Maddox, as any responsible employee would do." Amara spoke with quiet dignity. her voice never rising even as she dismantled Caldwell's accusations one by one. As for my personal relationship with Derek Maddox, yes, it exists. It developed naturally and honestly, between two adults who respect each other deeply. That relationship has no bearing on my professional qualifications or the value I bring to this company. After their prepared statements, they opened the floor to questions. The reporters fired queries from all directions, but Derek and Amara handled them with calm assurance, never contradicting each other or showing signs of discomfort. Finally, a reporter directed a question to Caldwell. "Mr. Caldwell, do you have any response to these allegations about your involvement in funding these organizations?" Caldwell stood, straightening his tie. This is a desperate attempt by Derek Maddox to distract from his own poor judgment. These investments were standard business decisions, nothing more. As for his personal life, I have no comment except to say that it appears to be affecting his professional judgment. "Is that why you leaked private emails?" another reporter called out. "I did no such thing," Caldwell replied stiffly, "and I resent the implication." "We have evidence indicating otherwise," Derek interjected. "The emails were accessed using your company credentials, Richard. Did you really think our IT department wouldn't be able to trace that?" Caldwell's face flushed. "This is absurd. I'll be speaking with my attorneys about these slanderous accusations." "Please do," Derek replied calmly. "We have all the evidence ready for discovery." As the press conference continued, it became increasingly clear that public opinion was shifting in Derek and Amara's favor. The complete emails showed nothing inappropriate, just professional exchanges about legitimate concerns. The financial records demonstrated a pattern that couldn't be easily explained away as normal business. By the time it ended, Caldwell had left in obvious anger, while reporters clustered around Derek, Amara, and Nadia, asking for follow-up interviews and additional details. Back in Derek's office, the three of them collapsed into chairs, emotionally drained, but relieved. "That went better than I expected," Derek admitted. "You were both magnificent," Nadia said proudly. "Clear, honest, and dignified." "It's not over," Amara cautioned. "Caldwell won't give up so easily. And there will be fallout with the board and shareholders." "Let it come," Derek said, taking her hand. "We did the right thing, finally." The days following the press conference were intense. As Amara had predicted, there was significant fallout. The company's stock initially dropped as investors reacted to the controversy. Several board members aligned with Caldwell resigned in protest. Conservative media outlets tried to paint Derek as woke and weak, while others praised his courage in confronting the company's problematic past. But gradually, the tide began to turn. The complete emails and financial records spoke for themselves. Business publications ran features on corporate responsibility and the importance of ethical investments. Younger consumers expressed support for Maddox Innovations' new direction, leading to increased interest in their products. 2 weeks after the press conference, the remaining board members voted to support Derek's leadership and the company's new direction, including the divestment from all organizations associated with Caldwell's network. Amara threw herself into her new role, building a team of researchers and educators committed to transforming the company's approach to diversity and inclusion. She developed training programs, established scholarships for underrepresented groups in tech, and initiated partnerships with historically black colleges and universities. Derek, meanwhile, continued his personal journey of reconnection and growth. He spent weekends with his mother, learning about Nigerian culture, history, and traditions. He studied Yoruba, his mother's native language, struggling with the tones, but persisting with characteristic determination. Their relationship deepened, though they maintained professional boundaries at work. Evenings and weekends were spent together, at museums, bookstores, jazz clubs, or simply at home cooking meals and discussing books. Derek was a different man from the one Amara had first met, more authentic, more vulnerable, more complete. 3 months after the press conference, Derek approached Amara with an unexpected request. "I need a sabbatical," he said over dinner at his apartment. "A few months away from the company." "Why?" Amara asked, surprised. "Things are going so well." "Exactly. The company is stable, the new direction is established, and the interim CEO we discussed, Jessica, is more than capable." He took her hand across the table. "I need time to focus on myself, on understanding who I really am when I'm not performing for others." "I think that's a wonderful idea," Amara said, squeezing his hand. "What will you do?" "First, I want to visit Nigeria with my mother. See where she grew up, meet family I've never known." He hesitated. "And then, I want to explore another part of myself I've neglected. I've been painting. Painting? Amara was genuinely surprised. I didn't know you were an artist. Neither did I, Derek smiled. But my mother says I used to paint constantly as a child before my father discouraged it as not masculine enough. I've started again, and it's freeing. What do you paint? Derek looked slightly embarrassed. Portraits, mostly, of women who remind me of my mother, of you, black women, with the kind of beauty and strength I was taught not to see. Amara felt tears prick her eyes. Derek, that's beautiful. I'm not very good yet, he admitted, but I'm learning, and it helps me process everything that's happened, everything I'm discovering about myself. I'd love to see them someday, Amara said softly. You will, Derek promised. When I'm ready, he took a deep breath. But I have another question for you. What is it? Would you consider taking a sabbatical too? Coming with me at least for part of the journey? Amara was quiet for a moment, considering. I've just started building my department. It's important work, I know, and I would never ask you to abandon it. But perhaps a month, in Nigeria, you could meet my family, see the country, and it might even inform your research. The idea was tempting. Amara had always wanted to visit West Africa, to connect with the roots of diaspora cultures she had studied academically. Let me think about it, she said finally. It's a big decision. Derek nodded, understanding in his eyes. Of course. Take all the time you need. A week later, Amara gave Derek her answer. Yes, she would join him in Nigeria for 1 month, while her deputy director managed the department in her absence. The next 2 months were a whirlwind of preparation, arranging their professional leaves, securing visas, receiving vaccinations, and planning their itinerary with Nadia's help. The night before their departure, Amara stayed at Derek's apartment. As they packed their final items, Derek handed her a small wrapped package. What's this? She asked. Something to read on the plane, he replied with a nervous smile. Amara unwrapped it to find a leather-bound journal. Opening it, she discovered it was filled with Derek's handwriting, poems, reflections, and sketches, dating back to the day they first met. I've been keeping this since you walked into my office that first day, Derek explained. Writing helped me process everything I was feeling, everything I was learning. Amara turned the pages carefully, touched by this glimpse into his inner world. Near the end, she found a poem titled, When She Walked In. Read it later, Derek said softly, seeing where she had stopped. When you're ready. Amara nodded and placed the journal carefully in her carry-on bag. Thank you for sharing this with me. It means more than I can say. The next day, they boarded a flight to Lagos, the first step in a journey that would change them both in ways they couldn't yet imagine. Nigeria was a revelation. Through Nadia's family connections, they experienced the country not as tourists, but as honored guests, welcomed into homes and communities with generous hospitality. Derek met cousins, aunts, and uncles who had heard of him all his life, but never thought they would meet him. He was embraced without judgment, his long absence understood as a child's inability to choose his own path. Amara watched as Derek absorbed his mother's culture like a man dying of thirst, finally finding water. He listened intently to family stories, participated enthusiastically in ceremonies, and filled sketchbooks with drawings of the people and places they encountered. For Amara, the trip was equally profound. Her academic understanding of West African cultures was transformed by lived experience. The vibrant markets of Lagos, the historical sites of Badagry, the traditional crafts of Abeokuta. She took copious notes, already envisioning how this first-hand knowledge would enhance her work at Maddox Innovations. But most meaningful was watching Derek find himself, his true self, not the version crafted to please his father or succeed in a white-dominated business world. With each day he seemed more comfortable in his own skin, more at peace with his mixed heritage, more authentic in his interactions. One evening, as they sat on the veranda of Nadia's family home, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Derek turned to Amara. "Thank you for coming with me," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "for witnessing this." "Thank you for inviting me," she replied, taking his hand. "It's been extraordinary. I never knew what I was missing," Derek admitted. "All these years, denying this part of myself, thinking it would make me weaker when, in fact, it makes you whole," Amara finished for him. "Exactly." He squeezed her hand. "Have you read the poem yet in the journal?" Amara shook her head. "Not yet. I've been saving it." "Read it tonight," he suggested. "I'm ready for you to know those words." Later, alone in her room, Amara opened the journal to the poem titled When She Walked In. As she read Derek's words, raw, honest reflections on seeing her that first day, on feeling his carefully constructed world begin to shift, on recognizing a beauty he had been taught to deny, tears filled her eyes. The final stanza read, "When she walked in, I didn't know I was lost until her eyes found mine across a room built on lies. When she walked in, I began the journey home to the self I abandoned and the truth I had fled. When she walked in, she didn't need to say a word. Her presence was the mirror I had feared to face." Amara held the journal to her chest, overcome with emotion. In that moment, she knew with certainty that she loved this man, not the polished CEO she had first met, but the complex, evolving person he was becoming. A man willing to face his demons, to acknowledge his mistakes, to rebuild himself on a foundation of truth. Their month in Nigeria passed too quickly. On their last night, at a family gathering held in their honor, Derek surprised everyone by making a short speech in Yoruba, which he had been studying diligently. Though his pronunciation was imperfect, the effort brought tears to Nadia's eyes and cheers from the assembled relatives. "My heart is full," he said in English after completing his Yoruba remarks. "For too long, I denied this part of myself, this family, this heritage. I cannot recover those lost years, but I can promise that from now on, I will honor this connection and keep it alive in my heart and my work." The next day, as they prepared to board their flight, Amara returning to Chicago, Derek continuing on to New York for the private retreat he had planned for his painting, they held each other close in the airport. "This isn't goodbye," Derek assured her. "Just a brief separation while I finish what I need to do." "I know," Amara said, though she felt an unexpected sadness at their parting. "Call me when you can." "Every day," he promised, kissing her gently. "And when I return, I'll have something to show you." Back in Chicago, Amara threw herself into her work with renewed energy and perspective. Her experiences in Nigeria informed new training programs and initiatives, and she spoke passionately at company meetings about the importance of authentic cultural understanding in product development and marketing. Derek called her daily, as promised, sharing stories of his painting retreat in a quiet studio in Brooklyn. He was working intensely, he told her, preparing for something special, though he remained mysterious about the details. 2 months later, Amara received a simple invitation in the mail. "Derek Maddox invites you to a private showing of When She Walked In, Portraits of Grace Brooklyn Art Space, 7 p.m., Saturday, October 15th. Intrigued and touched that he had used the title of his poem, Amara arranged to fly to New York for the weekend. She hadn't seen Derek in person since Nigeria, and though they had spoken daily, she found herself nervous with anticipation. When she arrived at the small gallery in Brooklyn, she was surprised to find it already full of people, not the business associates or tech industry figures she had expected, but a diverse crowd, including many of the relatives they had met in Nigeria, now dressed in a mix of traditional and Western attire. Nadia greeted her at the door, resplendent in a gold and blue outfit, her smile radiant. "Amara, my dear, we've been waiting for you." "What is all this?" Amara asked, looking around in confusion. "I thought it was a small showing." "Derek wanted to surprise you," Nadia explained, leading her inside. "Come and see." The gallery walls were lined with portraits, stunning, emotive paintings of black women of all ages, complexions and styles. Some were clearly family members they had met in Nigeria. Others appeared to be women from Brooklyn, captured in moments of daily life, a street vendor arranging her wares, a grandmother reading to a child, a young woman dancing. Each portrait was labeled with a name in 3 languages, Yoruba, Swahili, and French, words that Amara recognized as signifying different aspects of beauty, strength, wisdom, and resilience. As she moved through the gallery, mesmerized by Derek's unexpected talent, she realized she hadn't seen him yet. "Where is Derek?" she asked Nadia. "In the back room," Nadia replied, with a secretive smile. "He's waiting until you've seen everything." Amara continued her tour of the gallery, increasingly impressed by the depth and sensitivity of Derek's work. These weren't the paintings of a beginner, but of someone who had been observing and absorbing beauty his entire life, even while denying it publicly. Finally, she reached the last wall, where a single portrait hung, larger than the others and covered with a cloth. A small sign beside it read, "Final piece to be unveiled at 8 p.m. As Amara checked her watch, still 30 minutes until the unveiling, She felt a presence behind her. Turning, she found Derek standing there, looking more relaxed and content than she had ever seen him. He wore simple black pants and a tunic-style shirt embroidered with traditional Nigerian patterns, his expression both nervous and joyful. "You came," he said softly. "Of course I came," Amara replied, stepping into his embrace. "Derek, these paintings are extraordinary. I had no idea you were so talented." "I had excellent subjects," he said modestly, "and a lifetime of suppressed observation to channel." "They're beautiful," Amara said sincerely. "All of them. You've captured something essential in each woman." "That was my goal," Derek explained, "to see and show the beauty I was taught to deny, not just in others but in myself." As they stood together, guests began to gather around the covered portrait, anticipation building for the unveiling. Derek led Amara to stand directly in front of it. "Before I reveal this," he said, addressing the crowd but looking at Amara, "I want to thank everyone who has supported me on this journey of rediscovery. My mother, who never gave up on me despite my years of rejection. My family in Nigeria, who welcomed me home with open arms. And most of all, Amara Fields, who walked into my life when I was lost and showed me the way back to myself." He turned to the covered portrait. "This final piece is called Asi, a Yoruba word that means the power to make things happen, to effect change. It represents the woman who changed everything for me." With that, he pulled away the cloth, revealing a stunning portrait of Amara. But it wasn't just one image. It was a triptych showing 3 versions of her. In the center, Amara as she was now, looking directly at the viewer with quiet confidence. On the left, a younger Amara in academic regalia, representing her scholarly past. On the right, Amara in traditional Nigerian attire, symbolizing a possible future connected to her ancestral roots. Amara gasped, tears filling her eyes. The portrait captured not just her physical appearance, but something deeper, her essence, her spirit, her potential. As the crowd applauded, Derek knelt beside her, taking her hand. "Amara Fields, you walked into my life and changed everything. You showed me how to be whole, how to be real, how to reconnect with parts of myself I had buried. Will you continue that journey with me? Will you marry me?" The gallery fell silent, all eyes on them. Amara looked at Derek, this man who had transformed himself through honest self-reflection and hard work, who had faced his past and embraced his heritage, who had found the courage to become his authentic self. "Yes," she said simply, "yes, I will." As Derek rose and embraced her, the gallery erupted in cheers and congratulations. Nadia rushed forward to hug them both, tears of joy streaming down her face. "He painted all of them," a voice said nearby. Amara turned to see an older woman admiring the portraits. "And I should know, I'm his mother." Nadia smiled at the woman, Derek's aunt, her sister, and corrected gently, "We both are, in different ways." As the celebration continued around them, Derek led Amara to a quiet corner of the gallery. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. "It's been a whirlwind year." "I've never been more sure of anything," Amara replied. "You're not the man you pretended to be when we met. You're so much more, the man you were always meant to become." Derek touched her face gently. "Because you walked in and changed everything." "We changed each other," Amara corrected. "And that's what love should do, help us become our best selves." As they rejoined the party, surrounded by family and friends from 2 continents, Amara reflected on the journey that had brought them here, from a careless podcast comment to this moment of joy and connection. It hadn't been easy, but the most meaningful transformations rarely were. Derek Maddox had indeed become the man he was capable of being, not perfect, still learning, but authentic and whole. And Amara Fields had found not just love, but purpose. Not just a partner, but a shared mission to create change in the world around them. When she had walked into his office that first day, neither of them could have imagined where that moment would lead. But now, looking at the portraits on the walls, testaments to beauty long denied, to heritage reclaimed, to truth finally embraced, they knew it had been the beginning of the most important journey of their lives. A journey that was still just beginning.